I opened a letter from the IRS. You owe taxes on $41,200 in unemployment benefits. I said, I worked all year. The 1099 Gs were from 2 states I've never lived in. My husband said we needed help. He filed claims in my name. I'm 31F, he's 34M. We live in Somerville, Massachusetts. Triple-decker, steam radiators, street parking that turns into chess after the first snow. I'm an academic coordinator at a lab in Cambridge. He's a bartender who pivoted to delivery during COVID and then back to nights when restaurants found their breath again. We do our taxes the first weekend of March with too much Dunkin' and a pile of receipts that makes me feel like I'm playing adult dress-up. I was pulling W-2s and 1099s off the kitchen table when I opened a thick white envelope from the IRS CP 2000. We received information that differs from what you reported. They had me with $41,200 in unemployment compensation I apparently never claimed from 2020 to 2021. Two 10199JS were stapled to a page, one from the Department of Unemployment Assistance, Massachusetts, $27,600. One from Texas Workforce Commission, $13,600. I stared at the paper until the numbers blurred. I worked from home through all of 2020 and 2021. I kept my job. I hate Zoom. I did not hate it enough to collect unemployment. Joe. I called. His real name is not Joe, but let's call him that. He walked in from our bedroom, rubbing his eyes like he'd been asleep and not on his phone, avoiding me. What's up? He said, too easy. I held up the letter. I owe taxes on unemployment I didn't receive from Massachusetts and Texas. He looked at the page. His face did that thing where a person decides which story to pick. He sat down. Okay, he said. Don't freak. Always a promising opener, I said, voice flat. Talk. It was 2020, he said. You remember. No one was hiring. The bar closed. Deliveries were spotty. I applied in my name and got denied for a week in April because I had that short-term contract. Your credit is clean. The system was a mess. I filed for you. Under you. It wasn't like stealing. It was our household. Texas? I asked. My brother moved down there, he said, too fast. He said their system was moving faster. He set it up, same info. It just... You committed fraud in 2 states with my social, I said. You had 1099 Gs sent where? P.O. Box on Elm, he said. It was easier. I meant to tell you once it was sorted. Then it snowballed. You let it snowball for 2 years, I said. He reached for my hand. I pulled mine back. We were drowning, he said. I kept us alive. You kept yourself from looking at me and saying we're not okay, I said. You kept opening my mail at a P.O. box. That's not keeping us alive. That's choosing to drown me later. Small Boston sentence. I walked to the Dunkin' on Highland Avenue, ordered a medium iced regular in February because that's who we are, and sat on the curb because I needed concrete under me. I called the number on the CP 2000. The IRS rep, bless its soul, told me to file Form 14039 Identity Theft Affidavit. Since there's a 1099-G, also called the state agencies, she said, they can issue corrected 1099-Gs showing $0 if you were a victim. I filed an FTC report on identitytheft.gov. I filed a police report with Somerville PD. The officer asked, do you want to name the suspect? I said, my husband, and the floor didn't open up, so I kept breathing. Massachusetts DUA has a special line that plays 5 minutes of hold music and then a person named Brendan who sounded like he was working out of his living room. This happens more than you think, he said. We need your affidavit, police report, and proof of identity. If we determine the claim is fraud, we'll zero it out and send a corrected 1099-G to the IRS. Texas Workforce Commission had me submit an online fraud form because the phones were a fantasy. A representative emailed me back in 3 days asking for the same documents and a notarized statement that I had never worked in Texas. I signed the letter at a UPS store where the notary said, "Pandemic fraud wrecked a lot of women's Aprils." I froze my credit across all three bureaus. I set a USPS informed delivery so I could see if any mystery mail was coming to my name anywhere. I requested my Social Security earnings statement because the IRS rep suggested it. It showed my actual W-2 wages. No unemployment wages there, which made me feel better about someone, somewhere, keeping a correct ledger. Joe slept on the couch. He made dinner like food is apology. He texted me links to articles about pandemic unemployment fraud like I needed footnotes on my life. His mother called to say he did it for you, and I hung up because there are calls you only survive once. Updates. Update 1, 1 week later, Massachusetts DOA flagged the claim in my name as fraud. They asked for more. Copy of my W-2s for the claim period, letters from my employer stating I was not laid off, proof I lived in Massachusetts, not Texas. I sent my lease, utility bills, a copy of my T-Pass because I am ridiculous. They emailed back with words that felt like a small part of the world working. We've zeroed your 1099-G. You will receive a corrected form. We will pursue recovery from the claimant. Texas took longer. A woman named Ramona finally called. "We've seen a lot of Massachusetts, Texas combo," she said. "It's the same cruise. You'll need to file an affidavit here too. We'll send you a DocuSign." I asked if cooperating would send my husband to jail. She sighed. "That's your life I don't step into," she said. We put the name on the case. The AG decides." I mailed the IRS the 14-039 with my police report, the corrected Massachusetts 1099-G, and a note that said Texas was in process. The CP 2000 said I had 30 days. My tax lady, I found one, told me file for an extension now. Send what you have. Don't send money yet. Call if they send you a letter that says we adjusted anyway. Keep breathing. Small local sentence. I sat by the Charles with a paper bag of cannoli from Modern and watched a guy run with his dog. It felt like the entire city had survived something I was still in. Update 2, 3 weeks later, Joe confessed the whole shape. He opened the P.O. box in my name. He set up a Gmail with my middle initial. He took photos of my license for verification. He answered security questions as if he were me. He set up direct deposit to a joint account we'd opened in 2019 and then used Venmo to pay his brother and the guy who lays tile with him. He wrote me a list of dates and amounts and circled household like a child circling vocabulary words. I found an email thread where he appealed his own denial because he had a short stint of 1099 in March and wrote, "My wife lost her lab job. We need help." He hit send and then made me dinner that night and watched something dumb with me and kissed me like a man who hadn't just turned my name into a sponge for his fear. My mother came over with tulips and her bad knee and sat on our couch and said nothing for a full 15 minutes. Then she said, "You can come home." I said, "I don't want to go backward." She nodded. Then she left me a key anyway. Update 3, 6 weeks later, TWC zeroed my 1099-G. They sent a letter that said, "We have determined the claim was fraudulent. You are not liable." I cried in the car outside my gym like a person who just lifted something for a very long time. The IRS sent a letter back to my 40039. "We received your identity theft documents. We will adjust your account accordingly. Please check back in 60 days. My tax lady told me to file with a PIN next year because I'm now in the club." Somerville PD forwarded my report to the Middlesex DA because Massachusetts loves a chain of custody. An investigator called me, asked if I wanted to pursue charges. I said, "I want my name clean. because I may be brave, but I am not wrathful enough to throw a match into a shared closet with that much laundry. She said, "We may pursue on our own. We'll let you know." Joe moved into his buddy's place in Malden. He texts me every morning at 8:12 because he has decided that is a better version of a person. "I'm here," the text says, which is not quite the point. He started going to a men's group and sent me a photo of a whiteboard with the words "rigorous honesty" on it like he invented it. I did not respond. Small Boston sentence. The orange line worked 3 days in a row. I took it like a miracle and stared at my reflection in the smeary window, and I looked like someone I liked. Update 4, 2 months later, IRS sent and adjusted. Balance due $0 letter for 2020 and no change for 2021. I taped it inside a folder like a talisman. My credit reports updated with identity theft indicator. I signed up for a PIN for next year's filing. Modern bureaucracy did an actual thing, and I felt my shoulders go down half an inch. Then a letter from Massachusetts DOR arrived. Notice of intercept. Your state tax refund has been claimed by DUA. Even though my 1099-G was corrected, their systems had not talked to each other. It took 3 calls and a fax, yes, a fax, and then a paper check that arrived 2 months later with apology, nowhere printed, but somewhere in the paper. I found an apartment in Cambridgeport, a 1-bedroom with a kitchen so small it makes me laugh and a dog who has decided the morning light is his church. I moved my grandmother's table and 2 plants. My mother and a friend lifted my mattress like we were 22 again. I slept alone and woke up without dread for the first time in a long time. Joe's brother called me to tell me his mother thinks I'm breaking up the family. I told him his brother used my social security number in 2 states. He said he was just trying to help. I said he can help by learning to leave people's identities alone. He hung up. I blocked him and unblocked him twice. I am a person with boundaries and also human. Update 5, 3 months later, the Middlesex DA declined to charge. The letter said, "We believe administrative resolution is appropriate. Victim is made whole." Translation: the SBA OIG IRS blender did its job, and I did not want a perp walk. Texas Ag filed a generic criminal complaint against a set of John Does for UI fraud that will never make it to our stoop. A tiny petty part of me wanted someone to knock on a door in Malden at dawn. I took a shower instead. Joe and I signed a separation agreement. He's responsible for any civil penalties, taxes, or fees that surface from this saga. If anything with my name on it does, he owes me triple the amount plus my attorney's fees. He signed it on a bench outside City Hall. He cried. I did not. We hugged like strangers who liked the song once. Small local sentence. I watched the swan boats on the public garden with a coffee and remembered that I live in a ridiculous, beautiful place where people put tulips next to duck statues just to make kids smile. Update 6. 6 months later, I started dating. Slowly. A statistician at MGH who wears brown shoes and laughs with his whole face. He knows the whole story. He said, "You're very good at paperwork, and then do you want to go to Harpoon and eat pretzels?" He bought my dog a bandana and won no prizes but still got a second date. My mother's cat sat on my lap like therapy once a week. I joined a Thursday night adult beginner ceramics class and made lopsided bowls that my friends kindly put olives in at parties. I started to forget the sound-hold music makes you think about your own funeral. Joe's texts became less performative. "Paid a guy back today," he wrote. "Then my therapist says I'm addicted to the high of solving a problem I created." I sent a thumbs up because that is the correct amount of empathy you owe to a person who made your April get weird. Update 7, 1 year later, divorce. 10 minutes of Zoom with a judge who had a ficus behind her. "Irretrievable breakdown," she said. "Decree nisi." I closed my laptop and cried on my tiny kitchen floor and then went to Flour and bought myself a sticky bun because I like ceremony. SBA OIG sent me thank you for assisting letter that felt like a participation trophy. The IRS sent me a pin for next year that made me feel like a member of a secret club I did not want to join. Texas sent me nothing, which felt right. I visited my parents on the South Shore and sat on their porch with a beer while my father told me about a neighbor who built a deck without a permit. I laughed until my eyes hurt. We clinked bottles. It felt like being a person again and not just a filing status. Small USA local sentence. I stood on the Red Line platform at Charles MGH at sunset, watched the river turn copper, and didn't think about acronyms for an entire 3 stops. Update 8. All hooks later, if a CP 2000 shows up in your mailbox telling you you're a hairdresser in 2 states you've never lived in, I'm sorry. Here's what helped. File Form 14039 IRS Identity Theft Affidavit. Send your police report and explanatory letter. Call, fax if they make you, keep copies. Contact the state workforce agencies, Mass DUA, Texas TWC, or yours. Ask for their 1099-G fraud process. They will ask for identity proof and a police report. They can issue corrected 1099-Gs. Freeze your credit. All 3 bureaus set up USPS informed delivery. It's creepy and helpful. Get a tax pro, not your cousin's boyfriend who does taxes. Someone who can say CP 2000 without Googling it. File an extension while you sort. Understand Treasury offset. It's a vacuum. SBA OIG can pause it. Get them to say it's fraud. Stop apologizing for using the word identity theft when the suspect sleeps in your house. You're not being dramatic. You're being precise. Don't let him be the fixer. He broke it. Agencies aren't impressed with my bad. They are impressed with forms. Eat a medium-iced regular, walk around Fresh Pond, sit on your friend's floor and cry. Let your mother bring tulips. Get a pin next year. Make bowls that wobble. Small Boston sentence. I walked down Mass Avenue in the first fall light, maple leaves sticking to my shoes, and for a whole block I felt simple again. Just a woman going home to a dog in a city that knows how to survive itself. Final tiny note. People will bend we around their worst choices and hand it to you like a blanket. My rule now, we doesn't exist without consent. Love isn't a permission slip for fraud. You can end a thing and keep the part of you that fills out forms and buys flowers and stands on bridges at sunset. Your name fits in your mouth better when you say it out loud to yourself in the morning before the rest of the world asks for anything. It gets big again. That's the whole point.